Go, 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 go.
3, 2, 1, 4 tires.
Still there, inside.
What a jump! What a jump!
The track is wet. It's good.
Still there, clear.
3, 2, 1. Green flag, green flag.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Foreign Field Podcast. I'm your host, Dom Caplupo, joined by Steve Ray, Sam Dooley, and Wesley Riddle. We're here for a Daytona 500 recap podcast, first one of the season, and it was Tyler Reddick for 2311 Racing getting the win, the first for the team in their short history now, getting a second crown jewel win following Bubba Wallace's win at the Brickyard last year. Steve, another year, another speed week gone just like that.
Yeah, it was eventful. It came and went. I felt like, just last week we were talking about how we're excited for it, and then we just had so much action packed in a 5 or 6 day span right there. And now it's over. Now we can start moving on into the next part of the season here, going to Atlanta, which we'll cover in our next episode here. But huge win for Tyler Reddick, 2311. I find it kind of hilarious and ironic that 2311, after everything that they went through in December, they were the team that came out and won NASCAR's biggest race. So that was pretty cool to see. And really, it's just really cool. You know, Tyler Reddick is a really likable guy. 2311, Michael Jordan. There's no bigger name in sports. So anytime that you can have Michael Jordan linked to a Daytona 500 victory, that is just awesome for sports in general and for NASCAR especially. But yeah, I'm just happy that we were able to get all 200 laps in and before the rain came, because that always puts a damper in it when it's a rain shortened race. So happy for Tyler, and we'll break it down and see how everything played out in the race.
Man, I find it so funny that the three winners in the top three series came from Front Row Motorsports, right there with 2311 in the lawsuit, and then Richard Childress Racing, the stupid redneck, got another Daytona win in the O'Reilly series. Sam, it's just funny how things work like that.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I had seen a post about that, how all three of them were in some way involved in that lawsuit. So I don't know how much of it's karma, how much of it's just coincidence, but it's really interesting to see things when things like that happen. I really thought that not just the 500, the lower series put on a really good show too. I obviously felt like I wasted 3 hours of my life, and we could have just written the 21 in there to win the Xfinity, O'Reilly, Nationwide, Busch, whatever you want to call it, Grand National Series race. Like, we could have just written the 21 in there, and no one probably would have batted an eye. But there was a lot of comers and goers. It was really interesting to see. It kind of felt like it was a race for second the entire race. Sometimes a race for third when that 2 car was up there. RCR just has something figured out on the super speedways. And then with the truck race, that was insane. That's one of the most insane finishes that I've seen. Just 4 people straight up 4 wide at Daytona looks absolutely insane. And that was another one that was, the runs that those trucks were getting were insane. Like, it was really interesting. There's a lot of topics of discussion from trucks too, like a lot of discussion around like Cletus and his approval process, and kind of self-spinning there on the backstretch. Some people were angry about that. I personally really didn't have that big of an issue with it, but it was a big weekend. I'm really happy to be back in the swing of things. This will probably be the only week that I consume every second of NASCAR content that's out there. Like, I was searching online to try and find ARCA practices because I was just so excited for NASCAR cars to be back on the track. So It's nice that NASCAR's back, and I'm really excited that we had a fun weekend to talk about from Daytona.
Yeah, I mean, we're back into the swing of things. You're going to be running cup races off. I mean, just about seven, I want to say, races until an off week at Easter, I mean, we'll be here every week, 2 episodes a week at the very least. And I mean, Wes, I'm ready for the grind. I mean, we've been waiting all off season, and I'm just ready to get going here.
Yeah, it was a good weekend, I feel like, to start the year. So hopefully it'll set up for a nice few weeks coming up. I always hate that we start with two super speedways in a way. I feel like Atlanta's so much of a treasured race that you know, it's almost better than the Daytona 500 in ways, but it'll uh it'll hopefully kick off a good season.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of get into this Daytona 500, went through 23-11, getting their second crown jewel win. Only 5 cautions this season for 32 laps. Very clean race overall. And really, so only 3 cautions for incident because you got to count the 2 cautions for stages. And I mean, you had started pretty early. Lap 6, there was a crash. There was a mechanical issue with BJ McLeod. He said it wasn't a tire issue. And he just, that thing, you rarely see cars spin that quick. I mean, that thing, he had no chance. And unfortunately, that collected, Noah Gragson, 2-time defending Daytona 500 William Byron, Justin Allgaier, Tyler Reddick, your eventual winner, and Casey Mears, and kind of took the wind out of the sails, I say, for Casey Mears after, that crazy move to get into the Daytona 500. But just kind of set the tone early, and then after that, things kind of settled down. They went to, green. Zane Smith getting the stage win, stage one. It was a good day for Zane Smith overall, getting a 6th place finish. And then you had your first real big crash on lap 86. This one, you look at different angles of it. It involved Ross Chastain, Austin Dillon, Chase Briscoe, Todd Gill, and Justin Allgaier, Cody Ware, Ty Gibbs, Corey Heim, and Connor Zilish. I don't know about you guys, but it looked like a couple guys up front kind of moved, and then Cody Ware kind of reacted, and then once Cody Ware made contact with someone, then everyone just kind of went.
Yeah, from the initial angle of it, well, we got to back all the way up because this wreck happened off of turn 4 coming into the trial. Well, this was starting back in probably the middle of 3 and 4, where Connor was drifting up the track a little bit and made very, very slight contact with Allgaier. So things were getting kind of twitchy up front there. Then they come off of turn 4, getting close to the trial. Well, I don't know if Connor was trying to side draft the 40 car, but then, yeah, you're right, Dom. It seemed like Cody Ware was getting a little squirrely. Ross was kind of moving in and out, and it just seemed like once the ping pong ball got hit, then it was on from there and just took out a lot of good race cars. You had Austin Dillon trying to avoid the wreck, and like we were talking before the episode here, there was nothing within 100 yards of Chase Briscoe's car, and Austin Dillon just drives right into the side of it. Just said, I have a Bass Pro car. There's a Bass Pro car. Let's
He
just
went
meet.
fishing. He went fishing.
He went fishing, and he found the 19 car for sure. But yeah, it took out a good chunk of cars. I mean, most of them, like Briscoe, Austin Dillon, a lot of those guys were done for the day. But then you did have guys like Corey Heim. They were able to kind of get through there and get back up and cycle back to the front. So, yeah, really not blame it. For one, it was really windy, so that just moves the cars around in certain mysterious ways, anyways. And then just very slight twitches will trigger a wreck like this.
Yeah, and just that took Chase Briscoe out, took Austin Dillon out, arguably 2 of the fastest cars all week, took them out of contention. And then other, guys, that was Justin Allgaier's second wreck he was involved. The third wreck he gets involved in, I think he causes. In my opinion, I think he causes this 100%. Lap 125, you're coming to the end of stage 2, and Justin Allgaier kind of lazily goes down, and Denny Hamlin has a huge run and goes to the outside of him, and Allgaier just kind of moves on back up and is not clear and triggers a 20 car pileup on the front stretch. And you're taking out fast cars. Got Chastain, Cindric, Larson, Kyle Busch, Hamlin, Blaney, Logano, Byron, Gilliland, Riley Herbst, Zane Smith, Allgaier, Custer, John Hunter Nemechek, Eric Jones, Alex Bowman, Ty Gibbs, Corey Heim, Michael McDowell, and Shane Van Gisbergen. It's just, what's Allgaier racing for there? Not much. He's not getting stage points. And people like Hamlin, they need all the stage points they can get. Points are everything this season, and it's just a bad move right there, I think, by Justin Allgaier.
Yeah, I would agree. This is coming from a Justin Allgaier fan. I think Clint Boyer put it perfectly. It was just a real lazy, slow block. It a little bit tough when the cars, because they're right up against the wall, but you have to feel like the spotters are looking almost directly right over the top of them. Man, it's just, you got 75 to go still in the race. I'm just a big proponent personally on, live to see another lap. If you want a shot at winning this race, obviously you got to have your car running at lap 200, get, 125, you're just past halfway. There's still a lot of racing to go. Still a couple pit stops in there too. So yeah, just looking back on it now, Hamlin was coming with some momentum and with some steam behind him. There's just no need to throw that block. Make sure that you can see another lap, get to the checkered flag. And unfortunately, Allgaier just kept moving up, and that just triggered the bomb and went off behind them.
Yeah, it felt like Dom, you were talking about. It felt aggressive, like way too aggressive, considering Allgaier had nothing to gain there and everything to lose, and he ended up taking out 20 cars with him. Um, Once again, I mean, Justin Allgaier's a great driver. Nothing bad on his career for this, but like that's a stupid move at that point when you don't have anything to race for. Um, I understand it was an aggressive move from the 11, but the 11's trying to get stage points. He's thinking about the full season that he's racing for. So you've kind of got to look in your mirror and expect that, and kind of be able to roll with those punches once he gets to the outside. You can't just, I really don't see an excuse for things like this anymore, because they've got those cameras, and those cameras are so insane. Like, you can see everything behind you. So like, if you can see if you see the left front wheel of the 11 and not the bumper, maybe that's a clue that you shouldn't turn right. I mean, I don't I it's like I said, it's not an indictment on just Allgaier the driver. It was, I mean, great drivers make stupid mistakes all the time, especially in close quarters racing, like when you're three wide with this car at Daytona. So that was just really a dumb mistake.
Yeah, and with all, it's just right there. Could Hamlin have gone to the inside of Allgaier? Sure. But with this car, the second you pull out a line, the parachute is just pulled on it. And Hamlin, if he stays up top and Allgaier doesn't do that, I mean, just goes right by Allgaier and still controls that outside line. And Hamlin needed points there. He didn't get any in the duel. He didn't get any in stage 1. So he's already behind. And then he's got to try to get some points just in case he wrecks in stage 3, which he eventually does end up wrecking in stage 3. And, he's leaving Daytona 33rd in the points. 19 points already below the cut line. And I'll talk about Hamlin later, just in his point standing where he's at now and why I'm a little concerned. But that wreck ended the stage, and Bubba Wallace was able to be, in the right place at the right time. he also led a race high 40 laps. So 23:11, they had some speed. Did they have speed? Yes. I mean, was maybe just getting up to the front of the field and parking it contributor? Probably. Those Toyotas in that third stage just formed a 3 wide barrier up front, and these guys are running 4 to 5 seconds off of the pace, and something does something have to be changed, or are we just going to keep letting this just kind of go where you could visually see them running slow as a pack?
I think as long as there's stage racing, this is always going to be an issue. Stage racing just adds to it, right? Because I think honestly, it's one of those things like how we talk about the new car, right? You can't unlearn what you already learned. So like these engineers have taken it so far, they've looked at the analytics, and they've seen, especially stage racing makes it easier because you know exactly when that caution's going to be and that caution's going to be, right? So you know at least two of your cautions are going to be, and you can kind of work your fuel strategy for at least that last run out, kind of how you need to do it. Um, and I think even if you take away stage racing, there'll still be that to an extent. Like I think there'll still be quite a bit of savings. Maybe not to the point that we're at now, where three Toyotas took over and slowed the field down by 5 seconds, and they were running 170 miles an hour, whatever it was, whatever they were like max saving. But I think you're still gonna face this issue no matter what. I think it's kind of just hey, these engineers have figured out, like, if they save fuel, obviously if you save fuel, your green flag pit stop is going to be shorter. And so it's somewhat an analytics problem. Mainly it is a stage problem, because obviously, like I said, when you know when your stage breaks are going to be, you can plan exactly how much fuel you need to put in for that stage so that you can make it to whatever your mark is, or try and make it all the way. But I think the biggest thing, and I think everyone kind of understands it, is that if you take away stages, that will help a majority. There'll still probably be fuel saving at times, but it's also a 500-mile race, and a lot of cars get wrecked if you're pushing 100% the entire time. So it's mainly stage racing in my eyes.
Yeah, there's always going to be fuel saving, no matter what the race is, and with or without stages. But I feel like getting rid of the stage caution is the simple answer, because you change it from having 3 races in one and playing around those artificial cautions just to have one race and let those natural cautions, whatever would happen in the race, play out. So it would make the most sense just to get rid of the caution part, still hand out the stage points. And I feel like the biggest fix would definitely be for the super speedways, just to alleviate the Toyota issue that happened in that race, right, where it pretty much killed the last stage, just the overall racing product that we could have saw. But also it eliminates that strategy from every manufacturer doing it, because it happens all the time. I don't think you need to for the mile and a half. So I don't think it's that much more important. Same with the short tracks, because every team, will play that strategy and those cards a little bit differently. But super speedways, every manufacturer is kind of on the same page. So just eliminate the cautions there, and you'll really free up just the one race part. And I feel like that should also be essential for like any crown jewel race. I feel like the Coke 600, you go to the Southern 500, those races, the night race at Bristol, even Martinsville. I feel like those could do without having stage cautions, just to let kind of the natural part of it play out.
Yeah, they're just overall I feel like would put on a more pure product. It's unfortunate because the alternative to them racing 3 wide, yeah, it looks good on TV, but man, back in the early days of the Gen 6 era, like the 2013 Daytona 500, where it was just 90% single file train up against the wall. I think from a viewer perspective, while I mean, obviously knowing that they're running 40% throttle up it is visually appealing seeing the cars 3 wide versus single file line up against the wall. That was absolutely atrocious to watch. So it's a fine line because, yeah, you take away the cautions, and I fully agree with that. Take away, if you still want to throw out points, great, but don't throw the caution at the stage break there. Even just taking away the cautions, though, there is still going to be some strategy to some degree, because they have to, they're going to try to stretch it out and try to hit their target number for that final pit stop. And so then they're going to start to play backwards from there, and try to see how long can they go. I mean, we saw Michael McDowell go 66 laps at Daytona on a single tank of fuel. So there will still be teams trying to do that, trying to make it in as few stops as possible. There just is no, unfortunately, there is no one thing that will fix this style of racing. It's just kind of the box that the race teams are put in now. And it's unfortunate because for the purists, we know what's going on and it's not fun. But for the casual viewers, for TV, ultimately, who has a lot of say in stuff like this, it is visually appealing because you have the entire field 3 wide and it looks awesome on the screen. Unfortunately, running 170 miles an hour is not fun. And then I'm like, why are we having a 500-mile race of this? Let's just let's just make this next pit stop the last one, and then say, hey, there's going to be 25 laps to go, and go balls out from here. So it's kind of there's not one thing that can really get tweaked to make it perfect. And if you tweak it too far, it can send it so far to the other end of the spectrum that it might make it worse. And that's kind of the box, unfortunately, that they're put in right now.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny just because you're going to go to Atlanta next week, and it doesn't seem like fuel saving is as much of a conversation there. But also, I feel like there's more maneuverability at Atlanta. So if you're sitting in 10th place, there's an opportunity for you to work your way back up to the front just based off of speed and handling. At Daytona, I mean, we've heard this week, Denny Hamlin said he talked to Dale Jr., and the only way to really give to fix this is to put handling back into play and take away the drag on these cars so drivers can work their way through the field. Because if we're going full out most of the time off a restart, you're stuck just double file, you're just boxed in and you really can't control your own destiny. So if we can get some handling, to play a factor, then fuel mileage almost isn't as important, because if your car doesn't handle good, you're not going to be up front anyway, no matter how much fuel you're having to take on your final pit stop. And like you said, Steve, 66 laps on a average fuel run that should be about 48 laps. I mean, that's insane. And you're also 61 of those laps were green. So it wasn't like there was a rash of cautions that helped McDowell run 66 laps. It was actually the longest any driver has achieved on one tank of fuel in the next gen era, with 165 miles, which is just absolutely insane.
Yeah, I would love to go back and watch the S&T data and just see his throttle percentage during that run. I mean, it would be 40% at the most. And like listening to Connor Zilic on Door Bumper Clear this week, he said that the wake of the draft with these next gen cars, he said that he could be running at 40% throttle and be catching the guy ahead of him, versus the trucks, which are huge parachutes, or even the O'Reilly cars. You can't do that. And so those are some things, it's part of the next gen car. But you brought up Atlanta, Dom, and Atlanta, every time that we go there, the new surface that they put down a few years ago is starting to wear out, and handling really matters. And that is what puts on a great show at Atlanta. That's why that's becoming such a must-watch race, is because the handling is such a big important factor of that. So if they can figure out something to do with the handling, make these cars, I don't want to say putting it as making the cars unstable is a bad way to put it, but putting a more of an emphasis on handling, will certainly, in my mind, improve the racing at Daytona and Talladega.
That's kind of the box that this car has put us in, though, because this car is designed to handle so well. I mean, it's the same thing we talk about it like short tracks. The reason short tracks suck, but well, one, there's not enough power put down on the car. They're trying to fix that by wearing the tires, and that can only take you so far. The real issue is the reason why short tracks suck. The reason why the super speedways suck. The reason why road courses suck, because this car drives too well. Like you're at a point now, and I mean, it's another thing that once you learn it, you can't unlearn it, right? I mean, we could change the car, but we're still going to have certain technologies in it that just makes the car drive better. So it's not just, a big heavy stock car that's being thrown around in ways that it shouldn't be and twisted and this way and that way. Now there's a whole bunch of actual technology, like huge technological advancements that we're even making leaps within seasons, right, at different teams, and the understanding of how these cars work. So it's like these cars are designed to handle so well, and that's why, no matter, like, there's certain things you could try that could make them handle a little worse, but at the end of the day, the car is still a really good handling race car, and you're going to be forever fighting, while this car is still in use, forever fighting trying to get the cars to handle worse, because you made such a good car to begin with.
Absolutely. So that brings us to our final incident that created a caution. You had Denny Hamlin kind of push tight off of turn 4. Then Corey Heim hit him off center and sent him down into his teammate Christopher Bell, knocking Bell out of the race and Hamlin out of contention 2 laps down, which set us up for a final, I think it was about a 4 or 5 lap dash to the checkered. And you get to the white flag, Carson Hocevar's leading. Spire is sitting in a great spot to potentially get their first, I guess not first win, but a win at Daytona in the 500. And then there goes the 77 down into the 71. Eric Jones is taken out, and then a huge crash ensues behind him. The only controversy is, should they have thrown the caution? I think they're in a good spot not throwing the caution there. I don't think anyone was seriously hurt or left on the track. So I'm kudos to NASCAR for letting them race that back. And then you get the great finish of Reddick just making the right move and just, went to the outside of Zane Smith and went to the inside of Chase Elliott. And then Riley Herbst went for it. And this is going to be my disappointing moment of the week, is Brad Keselowski's comments just kind of grilling Riley Herbst for saying that was the dumbest move he's ever seen in his career, which I just think is a little ridiculous. Riley Herbst sees a chance to win the Daytona 500, which would be career changing for him, and it just happened to be Keselowski was at his right rear quarter panel right when Riley moved up and caused a wreck at the end. And I mean, I just don't know what and I know he's upset, but I don't know if he really needed to be taking shots at Riley Herbst for that. I think any driver in the right mind in that position would have done the same thing.
Yeah, I know that we give Riley a bad time on this show, but I got to defend him in this case. It's anybody that would be in his shoes would do the same thing. It's such a split-second decision that in his mind, he feels like that there might have been enough room for him to move up and get a shove from the 6 car. Anybody that tries to say that Riley Herbst just intentionally turned right to sacrifice his own shot at a Daytona 500 to let Tyler Reddick win, just go ahead and log off right now because that is just so far-fetched. I mean, you have the opportunity to win NASCAR's biggest race of the year. And unfortunately, it just so happened to be that Brad was coming with such momentum that by the time that Riley committed to moving up, Brad was already there. And it was just a racing incident. It'd be one thing. It'd be one thing if like they were coming to the white flag, wrecked, and Brad finished like 27th. All right. Brad still finished fifth. All right. I know that that's not a win, but you still finished fifth, Brad. To go out and it's not like Brad is not a saint either. Brad has made his fair share of mistakes, bad blocks, things like that. Things happen. It's the end of the Daytona 500. Everybody's going for it. Like Chase Elliott said too, the reason why he didn't throw the block on Reddick is that he knew that if he had done that, he probably would have gotten wrecked. Now, had he known that he was going to end up in the outside wall instead of the inside wall, he said that he probably would have tried to block Reddick, but he knew what was going to happen with that. And it's just part of it's, you could say that Riley, he's only done a couple of these Daytona 500s. Last year was his first full-time season in the Cup Series, so I'll cut him a little bit of slack that he's not been through as many of these situations as Brad. So I just chalk it up to a racing deal. You're at the end of the Daytona 500, and you're trying to go for the trophy and the checkered flag, and unfortunately, most of those guys, even the second place guy, Ricky Stenhouse, ended up on the wrecker. So he was not the only one. And I felt like Brad's comments were just heat of the moment and a little unjustified, in my opinion.
Brad also, I feel like too, just the overall offseason, how heavy it was for him, with the loss of Greg Biffle, and then obviously the injury, Corey LaJoie not making the Daytona 500. And then for the first time in years for him, he's got a shot to win. There's a path right there. And then you've got somebody that has like 20 less years experience, right? Just put you in the wall and take you out of contention. So I see why he could be frustrated for sure. And, how many years he's tried to get a victory lane at Daytona, here at the Daytona 500. It makes sense. But yeah, definitely more heat of the moment. I feel like it's, if that move happened on lap 15, right, you could say that's ridiculous because there's no need to be making those kind of moves, even for a stage, right? I feel like stage points are important, but you see too many kids these days that are coming up in the younger series. I wouldn't say Herbst or some of the young guys in Cup, but Xfinity and Trucks and ARCA, where they think they can win from third place or fifth place or sixth place, but there's no room for them to gain on the track. It's more of just desperation and Hail Mary moves. And you could say that about Herbst, but at the same time, it really wasn't because he did have momentum that he could have carried forward. Granted, I think Denny said that he lifted a little bit getting behind Chase, and that might have been the difference there, but everything's so split second that it's hard to be able to make a decision in such a short period of time. I mean, Herbst wasn't even in position, and the next thing you know, he's right behind Reddick, and that happens in just, 2 seconds, 3 seconds? So everything happens so quick, and it's hard to put a lot of blame on Herbst for that move. But at the same time, you do end up with torn race cars. Everybody hates it. Keselowski probably hates it as a team owner, but you got to move on to the next week. It's just part of racing.
Yeah, it's just kind of part of the whole the product that we've come accustomed to in the Cup Series at these drafting tracks is that you're gonna tear up a bunch of shit. Like if you're Brad, you've got to go into it assuming that all 4 cars that you brought to the racetrack this weekend, they're all gonna be on the wrecker heading back home, right? So while I understand as a team owner he's pissed off, and like Steve said, we give Riley Herbst shit all the time, but at the same time, I think that if he takes that run and Brad Keselowski isn't there, like let's just say he's not even there, not that he blocks the run and gets the push. I think that just with his run, I think he would win the Daytona 500 if Keselowski be damned if that whole train back there wasn't coming. I honestly don't think that Keselowski gets there anyways. they were going fast. They weren't going that fast, and they were at like the restart zone whenever Riley pulled up. Um, and I think Riley was in the catbird seat. I think Riley was looking at that and saw his chance to win the Daytona 500. And I think that he pulled out, and it was a racing deal. There's two cars that were in the same spot. And it's not like Riley gained anything from doing that, right? He ended up finishing eighth. So like I mean, I think he was last of all the cars that wrecked in that front cars that were there in contention. So like it was interesting to hear that from Brad. I didn't love the comments, but like you guys said, it was heat of the moment. I mean, you get out of a race car where you were just going 200 miles an hour and you get spun, and you've got to go home, and you're part of the ownership that has to pay for all those cars that got put on the hook coming back to the garage. And you got all that weight on your mind. You haven't really had much time to think about it, but I think that Herbst, like I keep saying it, he's a good guy. He's a nice guy, and it was good to see him, because I know that I've heard that he is putting in the work, working hard. It was good to see him up there with a chance at winning a race and being up there in contention. It was awesome to see that, and I think that I mean, you're going for the Daytona 500 at the end of the day. Like everyone has said so far before me, like you're going for the 500. I'd wreck my grandma for the Daytona 500. Like I don't care. I am going to go out there. I'm going to try and get that Harley J. trophy, and it just happened to bite him on this particular instance, and it bit the 6 car as well that he ran into.
So let it be known, I said in the preview pod that Riley Herbst would be in the top 5 on the final lap of the 500, and it happened. So just call me Nostradamus. Speaking of that, let's speaking of Brad calling people dumb and dumb moves, Sam, what's Dooley's dummy of the week?
Dooley's dummy of the week, I gotta say, I mean, everyone kind of knows. Kind of got a little bit of a banger tweet out of it. It's Natalie Decker. It's one thing to screw up and to try and full throttle straight through a wreck where there's still cars rolling. It's another thing to double down and complain about someone with no brakes and no control over their car whatsoever being in your way. There was cars behind you that got through it just fine. There was cars in front of you that got through it just fine. And you're gonna come through, and it's really a risk. Like it's a danger too, to Sam Mayer, who's drifting up the track, to have someone that has no idea like what they're doing to come in and T-bone you when you that's when you're relaxed and you're not all tensed up. Your body's not prepared for that. That's when you can really get someone hurt. So yes, my W of the week is kind of a lot of people's W of the week, which was Natalie Decker just driving straight through Sam Mayer at the end of a wreck when it had been multiple seconds since the brunt of the wreck had happened, and Decker should have been slowed way down by then. I tweeted out, I think it's time to reevaluate Natalie Decker's NASCAR license after that, because it's just, like I said, it's a safety thing. You can't come into these wrecks going 150 miles an hour when there's cars that are basically stopped, that are all around. Like, I don't know what you think you're going to accomplish. The yellow had been out for a considerable amount of time. All you did was just wreck your shit, and now your guys have to go fix that car up for the next time that either you run or someone else runs in that car.
I mean, oh my goodness, I'm looking at the replay here, and I think she's going faster than she had gone all night just to go meet Sam Mayer up into the outside wall. And you think Sam Mayer just wants to get T-boned? Do you think, oh yeah, he's just trying to collect as many guys as possible? And that's the worst part, is when she's getting interviewed in the infield care center, she is just doubling down and just keeps on complaining about it and just it's getting even worse and worse. Like she's probably already seen it too. Not that she needed to see a replay or anything. She saw, the caution's out. Caution's been out for a while. God forbid you just stop the car until the track is definitely clear. I mean, that's just the worst part is that there was time to think about it, think about what you're going to say to the media, and then you continue to just kind of make yourself sound even dumber and dumber.
Well, and at one point, I think in the interview too, I want to paraphrase here, she said, "Yeah, my spotter just said, check up, slow down, slow down," and then, uh, you know, then was like, "Well, just hang up on the top." But I mean, yeah, the spotter can help you in most situations, but at the end of the day, she's the one that's driving the car, so you can't just close your eyes and rely on the spotter to get you through. Like this is not Talladega Nights here. At some point you got to open up your eyes and be aware of your surroundings as much as you can see in those cars. And yeah, like you said, like there's nothing wrong with just bringing the car to a crawl or even a stop just to make sure that nothing is going to come on. Like this is not her first rodeo in one of these cars, in one of the O'Reilly series, plus all of her other, stuff that she's done in her racing career. This is not her first rodeo, but damn, after what happened there, it sure seemed like that it was her first rodeo. And it's hard because it it's hard because you don't want it to come across as, oh, it's just because she's a woman. That's not true, and that's not what we're trying to say, right? That's not what, from everything that I've heard and read, that's not what I've seen other people try to portray. This could be anybody, male or female, that part doesn't matter. It's just a race car driver just disconnected the brain for a second. And Sam was already, unfortunately, his car was already done for, but certainly after what she did, uh, did not help in the slightest. And unfortunately for their team, the 35 team, that's a pretty small team on a limited budget. Just destroyed one of their cars for no reason. That is the unfortunate part, is that the 41 was already junked, but for Natalie to go in and junk her car, just made it even worse.
Yeah, just looking, if her spotter's saying check up, they're her ears to her brain to the left foot, and there's just no connection there. There's just something not right. Like you said, Steve, the spotter cannot hit the brake pedal for you. And it's just she's had problems listening to her spotter before. We know the infamous incident at Bristol where Kevin Hamlin is just saying inside, inside, inside. We're wrecked. And then the crew chief is saying, you got to listen to the spotter, Natalie. And then Kevin Hamlin basically rage quits and says, I don't know what I'm doing up here. I'm out.
Yeah,
So,
unfortunately for Natalie, on top of that, I don't like, if you saw the video of her on Matt Tiff's podcast before it got deleted,
oh, geez.
I'm sorry that you had to witness that. And I don't want to really bring that subject back up, but she was already not having a good Daytona week prior to that wreck. And then the wreck during the race just made it even worse. So she did not have a good Daytona week even before she got in the race car this weekend.
Yeah, rough ending for Natalie Decker. But before we head out, just got to give our kudos to Austin Hill, as much as we might not like him. Just he had the fastest car and just knows what he's doing. He's just the best by a large margin in the O'Reilly series at the super speedways, and all the credit you got to give him his flowers, because I mean, it's not, you just don't luck into all these wins, and there's a reason the field is struggling to beat you, because Honestly, they might just think they can't beat you, and they'd rather race for second, just knowing second's a better finish than fifth. So that's good on him. And Chandler Smith, just I mean, the seas parted for him, but I mean, it's still a big win for Chandler Smith. Just getting just to have a clean finish as well in the Truck Series. Yeah, 4 wide to the line. I mean, just nothing but excitement. Now the call, if you're blind and you were just listening, you would have thought they were single file to the checkered flag. But I mean, it's a good thing Jamie Little isn't doing full-time trucks this season. So I think Eric Brennan's going to do some truck races, which is good. So I think the fans that watch all the truck races will notice a difference in that broadcast booth when, Brennan's in there for sure.
Yeah, certainly. And we haven't brought him up so far, but shout out to Tony Stewart for coming back. It's something that I never thought would happen after he stepped away from NASCAR. I was like, oh, Tony Stewart's never coming back. And lo and behold, 10 years later, Tony Stewart came back. Unfortunately, his night got ended early when Jake Garcia got loose and smacked Tony into the wall there. But it was cool to see him back in a truck. Jimmy Johnson's going to be in the Truck Series again in San Diego, so that would be cool to see. Just some really cool things happening in the Truck Series. Maybe because Corey Heim isn't in there winning 90% of the races, but I have a good feeling about the Truck Series this year. I feel like it's had a bad rap the last handful of years, but I have a good feeling that this will be a good year for the Truck Series.
Absolutely. So I think it's a good spot to leave our Daytona 500 recap here. We'll, this is coming out on Wednesday. We'll see you Friday for a Atlanta preview pod. If you aren't already, follow the Ford Field Podcast on all the social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed there, and Apple and Spotify, whichever one you listen to us on there. Send us your comments, your thoughts, anything from the Daytona 500 or any, throughout Speed Weeks. You can message us all on our socials. They're all linked in the link tree as well. So for Wes, Sam, Steve, I'm Dom. We'll see you Friday to preview Atlanta.